How much longer, Master?
Perhaps a moment, perhaps an eternity. Stop thinking of the future and anchor yourself in the present.
Welcome to Monad of Creation, episode 24. The last two episodes, Discipline and Destiny, are very much in alignment and very related to this episode, which is on devotion. So devotion is truly the term used for describing what people are in service to, they are dedicated to, they are disciplined in, and ultimately the devotion is what drives, their destiny. So you often think of, when you think of devotion, years ago, before I really had a more holistic and firm understanding of life and reality, I would think of simply just religious people or monks. Often, Catholicism or Buddhist monks. Any sort of spiritual or religious discipline, practice, dedication, service. As I said, in discipline, there's no rigidity or religion in trying smartly, living well, trying hard in what you do. There's no rigidity in true discipline. There's wise choosing and flow. With destiny, reality is what you make it. And what I left out of the episode in Destiny, which now I realize is for a very nice and good reason, is so I could talk about the principle of care again here. Because I happen to talk about care a lot. Care very often. Because it truly is what drives beings. What do you care about? Where's your intention being led? Where's your intuition being led? What are you resonating with? Resonating with something is typically a reflection based off of what you care about. And yes, some aspects of yourself that are true and pure. Some aspects of yourself that are true and pure. But often intention and intuition is led by what you care about, whether or not. I don't care what you care about. This topic doesn't care what you care about. It's neutral, and being disciplined and whatever you care about ultimately drives your destiny towards whatever you're caring about and being disciplined in. And discipline, healthy discipline, true discipline, people who are truly disciplined in a practice or a thing or something they care about, something they want to do, that true discipline, that wise choosing and decisive flowing, that discipline, diligence, those beings practicing those things could be called devotees in whatever they're practicing, from my perspective. So, someone could be a devotee They could be devoted to their favorite type of beverage. I know, sounds wacky, right? But if someone is, think about someone who might have a beverage collection, a collection of their favorite tea, and they're researching all the favorite teas, and they really care about it, and it's consuming most of their conscious time and attention. For what it's worth, if they're just working, eating, sleeping, dreaming, of course, that's a whole other thing. Dreams are very tangible. You just go to other places, but in their conscious waking state, they're just devoted to tea, their favorite tea collection. Something very benign, something honestly, just from certain perspectives, people would call that irrelevant. I think that person probably finds a lot of joy and happiness out of their tea collection, right? They're devoted to their tea collection. That's one example. Someone devoted to a tea collection. All right, let's take it to the other end. Someone who is devoted in a spiritual practice. Often those involve a lot of doctrine and dogma and rigidity. And that is also, yes, it's a devotion. They're devoted. Like I said, the monks, the good ones, all those things, they're devoted to God. Their idea of God, whatever they think God is. They're devoted to seeking it and being in alignment with it. There are so many types of ways to do the devotion to God thing, and this other extreme end, they could deprive themselves of contact from other beings, other people, other humans, earthly pleasures, food, intercourse, these types of things, because they're so devoted on their mission to seeking and knowing God, right? That is equally a devotion. That is equally a devotee to God, or what they think truth is, what they think God is. And the devotion to tea, a tea collection, is an equal devotion. What matters is how devoted and passionate and how much someone cares about the thing they're doing. So this ultimately boils down to, what do you care about? What's driving what you care about? Once again. And you can be devoted to anything. You can be disciplined and dedicated and in service to anything. That monk who has totally shed all sorts of, in their perspective, sinful or hedonistic ways of living to find God. And then that's their devotion, that's their discipline. They're in service to that. They're in service to God. And the person with a tea collection, you could say they're in service to themselves, to their interests, but they're really in service to their work of creating a great tea collection. So the work, having a good tea collection could be viewed as work. It really could be. It really can be. It is work. They are diligently, with discipline, driving their destiny towards having the best tea collection on the planet. That's their work. They're devoted to it. They're in service to their work. That monk who locked themselves in, their castle halls, their monastery corridors, stripping themselves of all carnal, hedonistic, animalistic pleasures. It could be a laundry room. It could be a laundry room they're staying in, studying, or it could be a monastery, or it could be, anywhere. The monk lifestyle could look like a lot of things, but this specific archetype I'm describing, they shed everything, and their work is focusing on purity and God and truth, what they're perceiving as true. Hopefully they have holistic intelligence and start enjoying some of the more benign, simple pleasures of life with purity intact. So anything can be a disciplined devotion. Anyone can be a devotee. Everyone is a devotee if you truly think about it. No one is 100% nihilistic and thinks nothing matters and just goes along and does nothing. The hugest nihilists who think nothing matters probably really care about some specific hobby, counterculture thing, film, type of media, art form, I don't know. Or maybe they really just like chips. I talk about chips a lot here. Ignore that. Don't let that distract you. Be disciplined in listening to this episode. So, even the most nihilistic of people who say they don't care about things probably are devoted to something, which implies a lot of care and a little discipline in whatever they care about and think about. And then you got a plethora of people who say they're devotees of this and that, devotees of that. And I don't want to talk about the what here entirely. I don't want to talk about the truths here entirely of these types of people. I don't really care about that. I care about, for this episode on devotion, talking about the dynamic of what makes someone a devoted individual towards something they're disciplined in. When I decided I wanted to start a podcast, I was honestly a little intimidated by making these things and starting this path, and I realized it's what I wanted to do. I'm sharing my perspective, okay? Just to make it a little more human, a little more understandable. And I was honestly intimidated by learning the software, all these things. But I said, I really care about putting out this type of media. I really care about doing this thing, this goal I have, this future potentiality I have for myself to generate. So I have to learn, I have to become disciplined in, the art of creating audio shows. So I was sure I was in service to the unutterable one. I was in service to all sentient life, and I was respecting, checking, and enjoying myself in the process, which is this whole discipline of, sure, people call it service to others, the law of one, those types of words and terms and semantics. It's all descriptors of simply caring about all life, all creation. And yeah, law of one can be talked about later, but I was in service to the unutterable, teaching these ineffable experiential knowings that I have gathered myself. And I was tired and sick of just telling people in my personal life and in passing, and them saying, "Oh wow, you must be so smart. Oh wow, you must be so wise. Oh wow, you really know something." And then they'll just turn around and go like back to their stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to change anybody. I was speaking my mind, and I was tired of speaking my mind to people who didn't care. So I looked at the other people doing this type of thing. I'm like, yeah, they actually reach the people who need this stuff. Let me clarify, need this stuff. You don't need this. You don't need me. You don't need this podcast even. These perspectives are supplemental help that can help you, help yourself. Okay, so I just realized I need to go on with this and do this. I was in service to my eternal self, which is in service to the unalterable, the ineffable, the unknowable, which we all know. And this is getting a little more candid than I thought, but it doesn't matter. It's good. I feel the energy. It's nice. So I shed a bunch of my old path, my old ways, my old desires, my old things, and just got way too diligent and disciplined in this. I cared way too much about creating more information, not even to express myself, it's just to let these things hit the airwaves in other minds, other beings, other hearts. So I just needed to do that, and it was so hardcore for a time where I was like, oh man, I need to really be disciplined in my growth and evolution too. And this is constant ebb and flow, and ultimately it became a discipline in seeking the unknowable and embodying what I do know is truly evolutionary and eternal, those behaviors, virtues, and everything. So my take is I'm devoted to ultimately the unutterable one, and that's it. But what's funny is I could be devoted to, like there could be a list of devotions. Hey, this might help you along your path. Make a list of things that you really care about, and then also rank them in accordance to which you spend most time and attention on. You can rank what you care about most, things you do, based on what you spend the most time and attention on. And the thing that's the number one thing you spend the most time and attention on, you're technically devoted to that. That is true. From my perspective, sure. But the number one thing in the list, when you really think about what you spend most time and attention on, you're energetically devoted to that. So the next question is, what is that? Is it leading you? Does it have you by a leash? Is it telling you what you are? Is it telling you what things are? Is it placing responsibility back on yourself? Or, is it a pretty benign or evolutionary thing? Like the tea example, the tea collector. That's a very benign thing to be devoted to. I'm not worried about what that tea collector ultimately is devoted to. I'm not worried about anything, but I'm not even going to care about being aware of what that individual is doing. Someone who's way too devoted to truth and freedom and human evolution and the totality of the species and civilizations, they're probably going to fixate on, well, does that person vote? Well, does that person believe in government? Does that person believe in religion? Are they under mind control? At a certain point, it's like, does it matter? Until they start actually making truly negative, rotting choices that are affecting others. I mean, do you know them? It's just so irrelevant. So you could be devoted to truth, you could be devoted to the tea thing, and the ranking on there, yeah, sure. The tea thing is benign. Being devoted to truth is, also benign. It depends on how someone handles it. Being devoted to a leader you really like, a teacher, being under a teacher you really like, or a guru, and just devoting yourself to that thing, that doctrine that someone else is really feeding to you and feeding off you. Feeding you a set of beliefs and feeding off you in the process. That's parasitic symbiosis right there. It's parasitic natures. So make a checklist of what you're devoted to. I mean, most people who are devoted to benign things, neutral things, things that are, art, culture, a craft and creating something with their own mind, it's pretty benign, right? It's their own thing. They're paving their own way in life. A hobby that's truly pure and not hurting anyone or themselves. But listen, those types of things can hurt yourself if you're not aware that you're feeding off attention and you're an empty black hole within yourself and you have nothing. So it's those hobbies, those things you're devoted to, might not actually be something that is worth your current time and attention and placing devotion towards. Maybe it's time to step back and be devoted towards your evolution as a being, your evolution as a soul, remembering yourself, respecting yourself. Maybe you need to do that, put that on the number one list in your devotions and what you pay attention to with your time and attention and energy, and maybe plop those, dancing, art, drawing, whatever, making movies, put that from number one, since you're feeding and getting so much attention off it. Boom, 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 maybe number 5, maybe number 10 on the things that you pay time and attention towards, you really care about. So, care. Once again, what you care about the most and spend the most time and attention on will often be the same thing. And learning whether your devotion, what you're devoted to, is worth it is not my job. I don't care. Unconditionally love you, but I don't care what you choose to do. It's your choice. It would be awesome and beautiful and generative and healing and evolutionary if you refined your disciplines and devotions towards a potentiality in the future, which would be a destiny you'd probably enjoy. Not my job. Hope this helps. So devotion, it's so easy to get rigid with devotion. It's so easy to. But the true constant in all devotions, if you look at them, things that people are devotees of, hey, even a cult, guess what? There's a nanometer of pure something in that cult leader, because they're part of all creation, right? There's a nanometer of it somewhere in there. Is it putrid, rotting, disgusting, negative, and harmful for a lot of people? Yes. But the point I'm making is that every discipline, devotion, and destiny has a common thread within it. And this goes all the way back to the Immutable Spirit episode. I would say listen to Immutable Spirit maybe after this one, and pay attention to how I acted and talked about eternal spirit. First fields of intelligence. Who knows? Maybe you'll have new insight on why I talked about that the way I did. So, within all disciplines, devotions, and hobbies, within all things we do, there's a constant, from current contemporary humanity's position, what we can perceive through our perceptual, dense bodies, the constant is unseen. It's often felt. It's actually almost always felt. But it is that immutable spirit, the unalterable, the unknown, the great nothing is everything. This great nothing is everything. This great unseen is everything. It's within everything to a certain extent. And so what does that say? That means everyone is truly in devotion to, whether they know it or not, or they're a part of this dynamic, whether they know it or not. This dynamic of life, of being alive, of existing. So honestly, another candid take, I'm devoted to existence itself. Sure, you could call it that. Do I expect or think everyone has to be? Absolutely not. Do I really adore that tea collector who is devoted to her, whatever that being's tea collection and their devotion? I think that's really awesome because it probably brings them a sense of purpose and happiness. Could it get too far, too obsessive, too overshadow everything else important in their life? Sure, it could. And then the monks in the monasteries who just shed the world because the world is evil and sinful and it's finite matter, and I just can't be a part of it, Do I admire them too because they are seeking the unalterable one, which they probably have erroneous, rigid notions and ideals and ideas about? Sure. Do I appreciate that as much as I appreciate the tea collector? Yeah, I do. And am I worried about what they do? No. But do I know that what I'm in devotion to, and plenty of others, I'm not special by any means, plenty of other beings are in devotion to this ineffable, unseen, unalterable knowing and feeling, are in devotion to that. That's within both of these types of devotees, the tea devotee and the monk in the monastery. The constant. So, if you're devoted to something specific that is seemingly against or separate than other things, just remember that you are not against within the core of your being. You're not against or separate from anything. You are individual. You are yourself. You're not attached to anything. You're not attached. Truly, you're not attached. You might make an illusory, energetic bond and sticky, toxic attachment to others and other things that are pulling you, leading you on a leash towards something you think you should be devoted to, in service to. What are you serving? Attachments can often lead people towards serving things they ultimately should not be serving. What are you serving? What do you care about? And how do you feel? How do you truly feel? I don't think I've asked that on the show yet. How do you truly feel in the core of your being? To the best you can in doing so, in looking into the core of your being, looking into yourself, this indwelling knowledge so deep within that can't even be articulated at times. That is conscious and aware of how you're feeling. Is your conscious mind, is your brain aware of how you're feeling? What are you in service to? What are you in service to? What are you constantly spending your time and attention towards? What do you care about? What do you feel? What do you feel? What are you feeling towards? Yeah, what are you feeling towards? Could be comparable to what are you directing your energy towards? And how are you acting and behaving? How are you behaving? Looking ourselves in the mirror is not easy, and knowing where to place our time and attention and devotion towards is not easy, and it doesn't matter. I think I need to stop saying we're getting candid, because I'm just going to be entirely candid the rest of the show. It's a better approach. Most people I have really vibed with and enjoyed my time with don't care about ascension, truth, or even sometimes psychology. They care about having, first and foremost, a joyful, symbiotic, non-parasitic time with those around them. Sovereign individuals who are not fixating on what others around them are doing, and then they really care about, something that's pretty benign and simple in life. Yes, the closest people to me who I do ultimately resonate with the most and could get along with the most do care about the unutterable and are in service to immutable spirit, as I am. But I don't see them that often. I don't hang out with them that often. These countercultures in the world, these little groups and little worldviews and types of, cultures and dynamics and things that exist. All these things, if you look at the core of what's going on, there's typically a similar dynamic or similar trait to these groups. So pay attention to those things. I'm not even talking about immutable spirit here. I'm talking about similar behaviors, similar moods, disciplines, all sorts of things. Lack of discipline, lack of mood, frantic mood, rigid discipline, whatever. So what are you in service to? What do you care about? How are you behaving? And yes, reach out to others for perspectives and sometimes help. But with that help, make sure you're not being led or told what to do, what you are, what things are in totality. You're not on a leash. So is your devotion, is your time and attention and what you care about, is that strung to a leash, an energetic leash, or is there nothing of the sort? Ask yourself that. Is there actual mental freedom? Is there actual clarity in how you think, feel, and act? Is there flow and freedom of choice in how you think, feel, and act? Yes. How are you choosing your thoughts? Yes. How are those chosen thoughts affecting how you're feeling? And how are those feelings within yourself affecting how you behave? So this really is a vital knowing and topic in human evolution. Which is bioregenesis, which is ascension, which is consciousness elevation. It is simple, yet very complex. Solutions are simple and enjoyable. Detrimental choices and actions are often the frantic ones that you don't really need, are often ones that involve bondage, leashes, and chains metaphor. Energetic control, tyrant teachings. Throw those in the trash can, as well as mine, because after this episode you shouldn't need me anymore. I unconditionally love you. Check yourself, respect yourself, enjoy yourself. Check out the links in the description for more supplemental things. And love yourself, please, and ask yourself how you're feeling. What are you devoted to? What are you in service to? I wasn't going to bring this up, but on a final note, I am doing workshops when I have the time and attention to, quote-unquote workshops, because they're helping you remember yourself and heal and evolve yourself. So I'm doing a workshop on ascension, which is just human evolution, practical ascension knowledge, understandings that I will share as an equal individual, share my perspective. So check out that in the Calendly. That will be June 1st, 2021. And stay up, stay in. All is indwelling within yourself, your generative core. Later.